What levels of cheapness have astonished you? My dad is a physics professor at a university, and if you know about this breed of humans, none of this might surprise you. I swear to all that is sacred, he goes to the cafeteria on campus and makes a meal out of the free condiments, Mexican style chip salsa, chopped onion packets, crackers, etc. Then he'll call me to brag about it. Another one he does, he found a store that sells expired food for a ridiculously low price. He said he spent $20 and now has microwavable popcorn for life. My dad never buys new tires. He buys used ones that the shop keeps when people replace them. He gets the tires for super cheap after negotiating them, like $15 or $20. The best part is that he avoids driving to not waste gas so much that the tires actually never wear out. They just deteriorate. When he feels like splurging, he will buy a pork shoulder, which is a lot of meat, for about $7 to $10. He cuts off all of the meat and grinds it along with free condiments from a cafeteria into a cylinder shape that he wraps with shopping bags from a store. Then he freezes it, and when he wants some, he slices some pieces off like patties and sautés them in their own oil, of course. This will last him for months. One time he called me while I was cooking. He asked me what I was making, and I said that I was cooking spaghetti. He said that spaghetti is about 3 times as expensive per mass as rice, throwing away my money. He doesn't just use toilet paper, just water, which is actually cleaner anyway. What I knew growing up was that using water to wash your bum is a very common method throughout the rest of the world, especially in poor countries where people don't have enough to obtain or rather spend resources on other things than toilet paper. Just keep your nails short and clean when using this method. I don't know, man. If I had to choose between a red, saucy, maybe meaty spaghetti versus plain old white rice, easy choice, right? Spaghetti all the way. Story 2. As a bartender, the worst tab I was ever stiffed on was $241, a big fat zero with a line through it on the tip line. I was dumbfounded. This group had me running all night, and every time they needed something, I was right there. I checked on them, making sure they were okay, the whole deal. I should have known when he landed me the card at the beginning and said the dreaded, "We'll get you at the end." What really pissed me off more than the no tip was the fact that they took pictures of the receipt and passed it around. I was speechless. After I picked up the receipt and processed the whole, "I seriously just got stiffed on $241, the guy had the nerve to ask me for something else. He started with, "Oh, hey, can I also get," but I just cut him off with a "nope," and walked away. It was about 15 minutes from the last call, so I just went in the back and waited until the lights came up and we were done. Much better than flipping and losing my job. Another time was when I once overheard a few guys talking about Reddit and was like, "Hey, are you guys Redditors? Let me buy you around." They seemed like a pretty cool set of guys. We talked about stuff we'd seen on the front page, what subreddits we followed, etc. When it came time for them to pay the tab, they signed it, said bye, and left. When I picked up the check, instead of a tip, they had just drawn a bunch of upvotes in the tip section. Reddit is cool and all, and I thought meeting Redditors in the wild would be cool, but upvotes don't pay my bills. For the record, I'm not one of those bartenders who feels everyone should tip at all times every time. I understand that not everyone is going to tip. It's unavoidable. For some people, tourists, etc., it's not part of their custom to tip, and I get that. But my thing is, if you're not going to tip, you can't, in my opinion, expect anything other than average service. We work off of tips, so if you aren't tipping, I'm going to do the bare minimum that's expected of me. If you see me skip over you and help someone else, it's probably because they're tipping me and you aren't. You can't be high maintenance, expect to be hooked up and not provide something in return. I realize that this might make me come off as kind of a jerk, and I don't mean it to, but it is the truth. Story 3. I went to dinner with some friends and their friends. It was a really nice Japanese place, and we all had a fantastic meal. When it came to paying, we all kind of threw in roughly what we owed with enough spare for a tip, except for one lad who was being tight, making sure he was only going to pay exactly what his meal was to the cent and nothing more. So the receipt came back and there was a good bit of change left over for a tip. But since the staff went above and beyond for us because some of us had special dietary requirements and needed to make sure things were gluten-free and all kinds of picky or awkward things, we wanted to throw in a bit more on as well. Well, this guy was shocked. He couldn't fathom us leaving a tip. According to him, we were throwing away our money and the food was already overpriced. We didn't really think much of it though because this is Ireland and tipping is generally not the done thing here. Well, you know what this guy did? When we were all leaving and getting our coats, he went back to the table and grabbed the big tip we had left for the staff. I guess we all thought he had forgotten something or just didn't notice, but we didn't find out until later what he had done when we were having drinks in the pub. He said something along the lines of, "I should go out for dinner with you all a lot more often. I came out with more money than I went in with." What really pissed us off was that the way he said it, he was so proud of himself. We were all absolutely livid, but he said, "Sure, you didn't want it anyway," and was acting like we had just tossed our money in the bin. I haven't spoken to him since then, and I'm glad to see that he has never been invited out with this particular group again. I saw him again, though, in a different restaurant maybe a year ago. It looked like he was out with a work event or something, all guys wearing suits. I nearly wanted to walk up to their table and announce to them that he's a thief and who steals tips and they should all keep a close eye on him and tell the staff the same thing. I really wish I had done it. Oh man, this one has gotten me so riled up because I used to be a waiter myself, and I understand that not everyone will tip, especially if you're a tourist and you're coming from a country where tipping is not customary. But if you're going to pretend to go out of the restaurant with the rest of your group and then come back in to steal their money that was meant for the hardworking staff that just served you, that is just a different kind of subspecies of human right there. Story 4. My 13-year-old daughter was invited to a small birthday party at a mediocre chain restaurant, Ruby Tuesdays, for her best friend. The girlfriend is over here quite often, regularly eats dinner, breakfast, lunch, etc. if she is here, and sleeps over about twice a week during the summertime. She's been included in trips to the amusement park and water park nearby. We have season tickets, but there is always something to eat, funnel cakes, etc., movies, and the occasional trip to Dairy Queen. And I've never asked to be paid or have her pay her own way. We treat her as one of our own. Imagine my disgust when my daughter calls me from the restaurant bathroom, nearly in tears, telling me that they just told her she will have to pick up her own check after dinner and dessert had been served. The check was like $13. The guy actually said separate checks to the waitress, but my daughter didn't know what that meant. She had a few bucks on her, but she was short about $5. The other girl's father told my daughter that she would have to stay and wash dishes or something and got really ugly with her, like she misled them or something. I have the parents' cell phone numbers. I called him and asked him something really nice, like if he could let her borrow $10 until he brought her home, and I would pay him back. He refused and made it seem like somehow my daughter and I were scamming him. He suggested that I call the front desk and square it away because they were leaving and were going to leave my daughter there if she couldn't pay, so he wouldn't have the cops chasing him down on his daughter's birthday. I did call the front desk, gave them my credit card, included a healthy tip, and told my daughter I would be there to pick her up in 10 minutes. Don't go anywhere. When I got there, this clown was trying to get my daughter to leave with his family now that the bill was paid, and his daughter was in tears. Needless to say, it got ugly. Ooh, gosh, that's just, infuriating. More so because he left us on a cliffhanger. Hopefully story 5 will have a little bit more of closure. Let's get to it. Story 5. When I was a waiter, I had a person ask me for a cup of hot water and a glass of ice. He then pulled out a tea packet, brewed some tea, used our sugar to sweeten it, then poured it onto the ice for iced tea. I just shook my head and thought, congrats man, you beat the system and saved $2. I had a table, split dinner, which isn't uncommon, except they split a Pepsi too. I told them I couldn't give them a refill if they're sharing, and they said that's fine. I had a woman throw a huge fit about wanting to order the kids' steak. I explained it to her that the kids' menu was heavily discounted, so we could appeal to families more. The kids' 6-ounce steak was $6, while an 8-ounce of the same cut was $12 on the adult menu. She demanded to see the manager and said that it's a medical condition and she has to order off the kids' menu because she can't eat an adult portion. My manager said, "Oh, that's cool. We actually have a special on the 6-ounce cut right now for $10. It's the same size as the kids' steak." She was speechless and I was laughing my bum off. But in that business, I also witnessed the other extreme. I once had a table on a Friday night that consisted of 24 people, a big company Christmas party. The floor plan was changed before I arrived to give me a section that could accommodate them. They ordered almost everything on the menu, top shelf drinks, sides of shrimp, big steaks, and in general, had a great time. I was at the top of my game all night and they racked up a bill of $740. There was an automatic $125 tip added to that. The guy signs the credit card receipt and adds another $135 to it. I was speechless. Now that is exactly what I like to hear and see, a nice big fat tip at the end of a whole night of serving 24 people, because people, that ain't easy. Plus, it was the holidays. Story 6. I went to a birthday dinner for my mother-in-law at a Filipino restaurant. Along with my wife and me, 4 of her friends were there. The friends ordered a mountain of food for the table. There were 7 of us there, but if there were a dozen, we couldn't have finished it all. Now, this was a bit irritating right off the bat because while I was happy to pitch in for her birthday dinner, I didn't want to pay 20% of a goddamn feast from Westeros. It would end up being over $200 worth of food. So then the check came, and I pitched in my credit card, and 3 out of the 4 friends turned into statues, except the oldest gentleman, who offered something like 15 bucks. I grabbed the bill and divided it by 5, leaving out the dishes and drinks that my wife and I ordered for ourselves, and tallied it up, saying what everyone owes. Crickets. I reminded everyone that they were the ones who ordered this giant mound of food in the first place, half of which was going to go to waste. To prevent awkwardness, my mother-in-law grabbed the bill and ran off, leaving my credit card to go pay it. My wife prevented me from stopping her and causing a scene. I quietly blamed the 3 deadbeats at the table, letting an elderly woman on a fixed income pay a $200 plus bill for her own birthday dinner. I lost it and called them moochers, and whoa, suddenly there's that scene everyone was working so hard to prevent, with them screaming at me and me screaming back. The restaurant owners understandably intervened and tossed all of us out. I went back in, apologized, and explained what happened. The restaurant, to their credit, knocked 40% off the bill out of nothing more than kindness. Salo Salo Grill in Las Vegas, y'all, and canceled the charge on my mother-in-law's card, and I picked up the rest, which was still quite a bit, but I felt a lot better about it. Damn, that's pretty nice when you find out that people actually have some empathy, especially established businesses. Good job, Salo Salo Grill in Las Vegas. Anyway, let's just take a quick breather from these stingy stories, and I'm asking you to not be stingy. Please do help me out by clicking that like and subscribe button if you haven't already, because it really does honestly help me out. I really do appreciate the support. Now let's go ahead and get back to the stories. Story 7. A number of years ago, I was waiting at a Greyhound bus station and I noticed some children playing with the arcade machines. A little girl, maybe around 5 years old, asked her mother for some quarters to play the games. The girl got the quarters from her mom and went back to the machines. Meanwhile, a small boy who was about the same age was just smashing keys randomly because he didn't have any quarters to start the game. The girl saw him and offered some of her quarters. He's obviously pretty happy about this, said thank you, and literally ran back to the arcade machine. I was watching this happen and thinking about how great it was. These children, who I'm pretty sure had never met before, were being so kind to each other. However, the mother of the girl was visibly upset. She got up, scolded her daughter for giving away her money, and said to the boy these exact words: "Please give those quarters back. My daughter wasn't supposed to give them to you." She took the quarters and gave them back to her daughter for her to keep using on the arcade machines. Now the boy's happiness has been swept away and the girl has been berated for being nice. All of this over mere quarters. Quarters that were going to be lost to the arcade machine anyway. It was insane and I really hated it. I know it's cliche, but this is one of those instances where this actually really does imply when they say that you can pay for school, but you can't buy class. Story 8. At Pizza Hut, where I work, customers will do just about anything to get free or very cheap food, as if it isn't already cheap. Sometimes we make a mistake and they are absolutely entitled to compensation. But some of these people will complain about any little detail of their pizza to get it free. Oh, and my favorite was a group of ladies who came in every Sunday morning after church. They all ordered on separate checks, and they all got water and one small item like a personal pan pizza or a cup of soup. Their checks only turned out to be about $4 or $5 a piece, but they still, every single weekend, felt the need to announce and remind me, "We're seniors, so we need our senior citizen discount too." That made their checks even cheaper, so they felt entitled to leave a few nickels and dimes on the table as a tip. Anyway, they aren't elderly by any means. They're all in their late 50s at most, and only one of the ladies, someone's mother, appears to be over 75 or so. The rest of them are all well dressed with nice jewelry and drive nice cars and are not technically seniors, but we give them the discount anyway because my boss goes by the "customer is always right" motto. Also, even if they are on a fixed income, they shouldn't be eating at a restaurant that has servers living off of tips. They could just as easily get fast food somewhere else that doesn't have wait staff that are making $2.83 an hour. And just like the opposite of the last story, this is one of those cliches that are not always true. The customer is not always right. Am I right? Story 9. A few years ago, my now ex boyfriend asked me to go camping with him and his family. I'd never been camping before and was really excited about it. We were going to stay on some islands in the middle of the lake, and the week before, his mom made us all come up with recipes and throw in some cash for the food we'd be eating for the week. I didn't have a problem with this, and we came up with some awesome pasta dish ideas. When we got there, however, she changed her mind and decided no, she wanted to eat out in the town nearby every day. We were out camping for a week, and we had also brought a cooler packed full of the ingredients for each meal. Nobody warned me of this happening, and well, as a 15-year-old, I didn't really think I'd need money when camping, just the complete basics. After she realized I didn't bring any money with me, she screamed at my boyfriend for about an hour about how she shouldn't have to treat his guest, how he's going to have to pay for all the food I eat this week, and how she expects this never to happen again, all while I sat crying in my tent nearby. Needless to say, every time we went out, I had a glass of water with the cheapest meal on the menu, even if it was something I knew I didn't like. The worst camping experience of my life. Also, probably one of the worst reactions ever by a mother who was the one to originally suggest that they do their own cooking for their meals. If you go out to eat for your meals all the time, is it still called camping? Like s'mores. S'mores are best over a fire. You don't buy that, you make it while camping, like real camping. Story 10. I work at a hardware store. Someone came in needing parts for a gas line repair. Once I got him set up with all the pipe and fittings, I asked if he had the right tape for it. You need a special type of Teflon tape to have a perfect seal and prevent gas leaks. He replied, "No, can you get me some?" So I grabbed the tape and he asked why I grabbed the yellow tape, $4.99, instead of the blue tape, 99 cents. I told him that the blue is for the water line and using it could very likely cause a gas leak. After trying to convince him for 10 minutes to just spend the $4 extra on something that would likely save his life, I walked away. I came back from my break and it turned out that the guy put back all the black iron gas pipes and fittings and got the galvanized steel water pipes and fittings, a total of $15 cheaper, and the blue tape. 2 weeks later, there was a story on the news about a guy whose house had a gas leak that exploded. Luckily, the man was out with his family at the time and no one was injured. I'm not sure if it was the same man from the store, but it is likely. Story 11. I work in general practice and we have a husband and wife duo. She's in her 40s and a nurse, and he's 73 and a GP. Yes, it's exactly that kind of relationship. He will hang around for a med rep when they're scheduled to arrive and snipe all the food. He's notorious for taking lunches. Anything edible, you have to hide. I mean, this man brings home over $1,000 a day, but he has to eat your yogurt and your sandwich. I've caught him sneaking out the back door with a box of sandwiches meant for everyone. Meanwhile, she will buy overly expensive clothes, have her nails and hair done and regularly applied, yet get $4,000 in dental work for free by scamming the government and Medicare, and send the kids to a breakfast club at school which is meant for parents who can't afford to feed their kids. I've also seen her raid our lost and found bin and our supply cupboard for batteries, envelopes, staples, etc. Story 12. I work at a California community college in the Student Payment and Veterans Office. I work on the veterans side of the office and hear some very cheap arguments from the payment side of the office. In California, many people qualify for what is called the Board of Governors fee waiver. This waives the cost of the class fees at our school. The only other fees the student has to pay are a $18 health fee, which is a fee required by state law, and material fees for the courses if the courses have one. Some people come in, complain about paying an $18 balance on their account for 16 units of courses, which should have cost $754. I mean, really? These people complain about paying $18 to take classes at a college that are worth $46 per unit. They get financial aid and they only have to pay $18. I mean, come on, seriously. Stop being so cheap and pay $18 to get a damn education. Story 13. You see, my husband and I didn't think we were those people until we learned that my mother had accidentally swallowed her gold tooth. A tooth like that could be worth a few hundred at least, so we waited until it was around time for her to pass it. We got all the tools we needed, but neither of us wanted to do it. Finally, I became the bigger person and put on the gloves. She was my family after all. Right when I'm about to go in, my husband stops me, saying he just can't watch his wife be that person. He slips on the gloves like the brave man he is and gets ready to go in the bathroom and dig for that little gold tooth. Unfortunately, I just couldn't let him go through with that. In the end, we both realized we weren't those people and felt more satisfied with that than some gold tooth could have done. And there's one way to bring two people closer together who already obviously are so much in love. Kind of a sweet but gross story. Alright, so if you're feeling a little judged by your own spending habits after hearing these, well, we've all been there. But hey, if you like to learn about more smart savings without going the cheapskate route, check out the next video. It'll be perfect for you. What's a good example of spending money to save money? Story 2 is basically a life hack. I'll see you there, and thank you for watching this one.